Fast Forward Productions. The women are speaking. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the One Broke Actress podcast, an honest account of actor life plus a few lessons I learn in the process. I am your host, Sam Valentine, and today's podcast is a bit long, but stick with me because it is so good. Adam Shapiro, our guest today, and I couldn't stop talking about our philosophies of the acting world and staying in this business long enough for things to happen. And you are going to love this episode. If you don't already know Adam, he is not only an incredible actor, which if you just glance down into the show notes, you can see all of his credits because I'm not going to list them out for you because one, it's very long. And two, we're on strike. So I'm not promoting anyone's material, but look at them because it's there's a lot. Adam's been working in this business since around 2001, and he found himself being successful commercially, but not being able to translate that into film and television. So we get really deep in today into how that actually happened and how he made the change and what the word authenticity actually means to him, as well as how to find your authentic self as you go through the same process. He gives us some killer advice from some amazing close friends whose names you will recognize from now until eternity. And he also talks a lot about how he built his business, Shappy Pretzels, out of the pandemic and how it became a joy and how it's one of the things he's most excited about to this day. Hot tip, we talk a lot about building your life outside of acting, as well as marketing in this episode. We talk a lot about marketing at the end, so make sure you stick to that. If you have not seen Adam in any of his various projects, which I'm sure you have, or you haven't caught his Instagram, or you haven't had one of his pretzels, which he is handing out every single day on the picket lines right now like a madman, and it's so cool to watch him work. He is dynamic, he is fascinating, he is hilarious, and he has done so much work in Hollywood in order to get himself out there and figure out his place. I love this episode. I will be listening to it more than once. So without further ado, please enjoy Adam Shapiro. I want to check in first. How are you doing? Because I feel like you've spent every day on a picket line delivering pretzels and sending the good message and making content. And if not, you've been making viral videos. How are you? Are you okay?
Yeah, no, I'm not okay. I'm going completely insane. It's really funny. I was talking to somebody on the picket line today and he was asking about the pretzels and he was like, what is it? And I sort of told him the origin story and he said, oh, you're like a crisis-based pretzel company. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I guess that's why it lent itself so easily. We were able to mobilize in the direction of the strike so easily because our company is birthed out of the pandemic. Our best times were when people were in lockdown and driving to my driveway to pick up pretzels. And so this is we don't have to wear masks and we can just go to the pickets and people can sponsor the drops or we could buy the pretzels. Either way, we could just give them out. So for me, it just brings me right back to sort of the origin of this company. My business plan was to make people happy during the shit show that was 2020. That was the business plan. It had nothing to do with making money. It was if I can make people happy, create a stage for myself as a performer, making pretzels and giving people food makes me happy, And I'm an actor at the same time and I need a stage and the street became my stage and my little pretzel shop became the play and the characters started writing themselves. I just started to meet thousands and thousands of people throughout the pandemic. I mean, when I say thousands, it's not an exaggeration. It really just took me everywhere. And now we're 3 years later. It's a company and we've got 10 staff members. And I was like, well, I'm not on the negotiating committee and I got 2 kids, so I can't commit to being a strike captain. There's just no way with all the pickups and drop-offs. So my job on this strike is going to be to make people happy while they're doing it. I'm going to do it through pretzels and the videos.
So with the pretzel, was this a thing that you were known for before?
No.
Listen, they're delicious pretzels. I've been trying to get my hands on forever. And thank God I finally ran into you in a strike. So I was like, give me pretzels. I think I actually took 2 in my pockets in my,
of course,
just as good cold, to be clear.
You're allowed to. Yes.
I love a soft pretzel. But what was the impetus of I'm an actor. I can also make food for people. Where did this come from? Is this something you always did?
I've always been obsessed with food. I love restaurant culture. I love chefs. I love all that stuff, but just as a fan. And then, when the pandemic started, my now 5.5-year-old was 2, and Katie was pregnant with our now 2-year-old. And I was just trying to figure out things to keep my 2-year-old busy during the day during lockdown. We made like a little nursery school schedule. Like, we're going to do arts and crafts. Then we're going to have lunch. Then you're going to watch TV. So daddy can like just look at his phone for an hour. And so one of those scheduled classes during the day was cooking class. I would show my son videos of the places that my wife, Katie, Lowe's, and I would travel before he was born. And then I would tell him about a food I was obsessed with there. And then we would Amazon the ingredients and then we would make it. So I'm like, this is when we went to New Orleans. Now we're going to make a beignet. And this is when we went to Africa and they would have these like amazing coffees in Kenya. And so we're going to like make a coffee with Kenyan coffee beans or whatever. And then I was like, what am I doing? This kid's never had a Philadelphia soft pretzel. I'm from Philadelphia. Like, I bleed Philly. And so I was like, I got to learn how to make a Philly soft pretzel. That's what we should be spending our time making. It was the one thing I couldn't find a real recipe for online. There's a lot of soft pretzel recipes out there, but not Philadelphia soft pretzel recipes. And it's because there's only one place in the world where they eat Philly soft pretzels, and that's in Philly. And in Philly, they're so prevalent, no one would ever have to make them. There's no recipe needed, you know? It'd be like spending time making your own donut in Los Angeles when there's 7,000 donut shops who make awesome donuts in every corner of LA. And in those little pink boxes, it's like why would you have to spend your time making donuts in Los Angeles, you know? And so I just started playing a little trial and error and I became super obsessed with making the perfect soft pretzel. Long story short, I finally bring out a batch that I'm like, Katie, you got to try these pretzels. This is like what I grew up with. This is insane. I feel like the most powerful person in the world that I can make these pretzels right now. And then whenever Kelly Ripa goes on vacation, there's a hard right turn. They hire my wife, Katie, as the co-host on the show. So it's like Katie and Ryan Seacrest do the show. And so normally she flies to New York and they have this great week and she does all the live shows. But during the pandemic, we were shooting those shows via Zoom from our house in the middle of the pandemic lockdown, national broadcast at 5 a.m. in our house, right?
Oh my God.
And one day, randomly, Ryan Seacrest, God bless him, he says, Katie, what have you guys been snacking on during your lockdown, you know, with the baby and everything? And Katie's like, oh, my husband's obsessed with trying to make a Philly soft pretzel. He's obsessed. So I jumped on Zoom just like this. And I was like, yo, Ryan, I'm bringing you a pretzel tomorrow. So I gave his assistant some pretzels like at 4 a.m. She drove him to Santa Monica. He ate them on the air. He was like, everybody needs to buy Shappy pretzels. And I was like, whoa. I like jumped back on TV. I'm like, there's no Shappy pretzels. Nobody can buy these. It's me and my 2-year-old. And then,
there's a lot of health concerns of like passing
yeah. Like we're not Wetzel pretzels over here, Seacrest. It's me and a toddler. So they went back and they were doing the show and they were recording the episode. And I'm sort of just like sitting there helping like the production staff, like signal things to Katie. And while she's doing the show, I'm on my phone getting shappypretzel.com and securing the Instagram Shappy Pretzel. And I make a 1-page website just while we're sitting there and just says, yo, your mall's pretzel can go fuck itself, with a little Shappy Pretzel on the bottom. And if you clicked on that, you followed Shappy Pretzel's Instagram. And if you followed Shappy Pretzel's Instagram, you saw a video that said, we're not a real pretzel company, but if we ever become one, you'll be the first to know, right? Cut to like 3 weeks later. I'm like, Katie, there's hundreds of people following the pretzel account. Like, should I sell these pretzels in the driveway, like a lemonade stand during the middle of lockdown? Is that a bad idea or a good idea? She's like, whatever kind of gets you out of my face would be amazing, incredible for everybody, you know?
Uh-huh.
So I started selling these pretzels like on Instagram and like people would Venmo me and DM me for their order and I would email them a time to pick up in my driveway. And I would send our 2-year-old with a bag of pretzels like down the driveway to the person who pre-ordered. And I would write their name on the bag, you know, yo, Sam, I write on the bag and I'd send it down to you or whatever. And it just sort of became our tradition to write yo and the name on the bag. It just went from 40 pretzels were pre-ordered that first Monday that I did them. And then the next day it was 80 and the next day it was 200. And then we got up to 500 pretzels I was making a day in my house by myself.
How do you even have the oven space for that? Just like a technical question.
I didn't. My oven could fit maybe 24 pretzels at a time. And so I was making 12 pretzel batches per rack and just having time to pick up start at 9 a.m. and go till 6 p.m. I mean, it was wild.
Wow.
And Katie was like, are you sure you know all these people in our drive? I'm like, no, I know them all. I mean, we're friends now, you know.
Yeah, now they have our address, so I hope so.
Yeah, people are coming up with like playbills from plays I've been in to like sign the playbill. It was crazy. Then the news came, then another news channel came, and then the Hollywood Reporter did this amazing article, and it just started to snowball, and it became this really amazing opportunity for me to do something during this horrible time that made a lot of people really psyched. And when the pandemic slowed down, I was like, maybe that's going to be it. And I went back to work and never have I ever started shooting. And then I went to Budapest to shoot this series. And I thought maybe that would be it for the Pretzel Company, but there's no stopping it. Shappy Pretzel is it just keeps on going. We did the Oscars this year. We did 5,000 pretzels for the Super Bowl. We do Live Nation concerts now. And I mean, it's wild. It's a really amazing, really fulfilling side hustle thing.
My favorite thing about this is that you have a career and a life that a lot of people dream of having.
Wow.
And the thing
thank you
that
for
is
saying
like, yeah, totally. Cause you've hit a space in your career and like the work you've done, if you just look at it, like it's pretty incredible. And your wife, listen, I don't know her personally, but like really like her work too.
You'll
and
love her. You
like
love her. She's the best. She's the best.
She sounds rad. And like you're living a lot of people's dreams, which if you didn't need to hear that today, I just want to make sure you hear it. That's
Thank you for
pretty
saying
fucking
that.
cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
But this thing that's lighting you up is making pretzels for people. Like
I know.
Isn't
that funny?
Rad.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
I did a movie, I want to say it was like 13 years ago. Larry Gay, renegade male flight attendant. The movie's hilarious, by the way. Stars Mark Feuerstein. I'm in it. You got Danny Pudi, Rebecca Romaine, Molly Shannon, Michael Silver, Henry Winkler. It's a great cast. And I got to meet Henry Winkler doing this. And he'd already kind of knew Katie because they worked together on Royal Pains on USA for an episode. And he gave us like a wedding gift and we wrote him a thank you note. And I was like, I'll get it to him. I feel like I know people that maybe know Henry. I'll get it. And then it was like getting to that year where you're like too late writing the thank you note. And Katie was like, when are you going to get this thank you note to Winkler? And I'm like, I'll figure it out. And then all of a sudden I'm like working with him the next day. And I'm like, oh my God, I can bring the thank you note. So I met Henry while giving him a thank you note for a gift he gave to us for our wedding, which just shows you how unbelievable of a person Henry Winkler is. And he's everything everybody says about him. And he's become for the past, 15 years, like a real mentor to me and a good friend. And I remember we were at his house for dinner once and he brought me down to the end of the table. He's, this is after we shot the movie. He said, Adam, I have good news for you. And Adam, I have good news for you. And I have bad news for you, right? He's like, the good news is you're good at the acting. Okay. So you're going to work for a long time. I'm like, to hear that from you is amazing. He said, the bad news is that you're good at the acting thing and you're going to work for a long time. And he's like, the reason I say this is because in this industry, when you work for a long time, it also means you have lots of time where you're not working. He's like, I did the Fonz. I was the biggest freaking star in the world. And then nobody hired me until like Adam Sandler put him in The Waterboy. You know what I mean? Like literally 30 years went by and now he's winning Emmys and he's on HBO and he's killing it. But like he said to me, he was like, so the good news is you've got what it takes to work in this town. You've got the talent. You like people like working with you. You're nice. You're respectful on set. You're professional, all the things you need to be. And then at the same time, like it's going to be tough, because no one's going to run you out of this town and you're not going to go just get a regular job, which is going to make your life like way easier and maybe more simple. You're going to be like an actor and that's like got its ups and downs and its roller coasters and all that stuff. So he's like, my advice to you is to find something that has nothing to do with acting that is creatively, emotionally fulfilling. Because if your happiness is based on the miracle that is someone writing a role, that role being in a project that gets greenlit, those people hiring the right people that cast it, that happen to know you end up auditioning. If your happiness is decided by being cast by someone else, it's going to be a long journey. He's like, just keep it in mind. You may not know what that is because, like most actors, us, it's like, and I follow you and you're so good at other things, but you do those things so deliberately because it's necessary, right? It's necessary for our like own sanity as actors.
Been a long journey in the words of Henry Winkler.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And I was like, shit, man, I don't know what that would be. I genuinely don't know what else my passions are other than the things I'm just a fan of, but like actually doing that could be fulfilling. And then this pretzel thing happens sort of out of the blue. And I'm literally lit up by it. Like I enjoy it more than anything I've ever done in my life. I love it. I love the people. I love the bakers. I love the bakery. I love the drama. I love being in the food scene. And so like the first week I was selling these pretzels in my driveway, who comes down my driveway other than Henry Winkler in the middle of the pandemic and says, Adam, the pretzels are your thing. I was just open to it. But had he not said that, I think I would have fought the pretzel thing. I think I would have been like, I'm not going to start a business because I can't have a pretzel business and be an actor because I don't want anybody to think of me in any other way other than being an actor.
Ooh. Okay. So many actors ask me about a thing I tell them all the time, which is there any other thing you can make money alongside with acting? Because the reason we're striking and so many things about this business is like the money part is so hard and you never know when it's going to come. And if your only distinction of success is when you're booking, then like this is going to be really brutal. I don't want that for anyone. I spent years being like, I'm a failure because I'm not doing anything. And I worked jobs that made me feel worse. There is a start of this career where you do a serving job and do the bullshit barista and to do stuff that might not light you up to just get experience and meet people and like know your town. But I always felt like there was a ticking clock with things like nannying and babysitting that I did for so long, which the ticking clock then lent itself to my career. And then I felt like my career had a clock on it. And it was like, well, if I'm not successful by I'm 35, like I can't do anything. So I accidentally fell into building my actor platform. Now I produce podcasts and all these things. Like it was all an accident. I did not plan this to make money. I did not plan this to become my job. It all become accidental. And so when I tell people like, start to think about what people come to you for, or like what really lights you up and things like that. Like what would be your advice for actors who are like, I have a job. It's killing me slowly. I don't know how much longer I can do this for.
I love what you just said. And I think that this applies to life, anybody's life, I think.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're trying to push a square peg into a round hole, like it's hard, you know, and people started coming to me for these pretzels. People often talk about like, how did you make Shappy Pretzel happen? I'm like, well, it sort of happened to me, but I was open and available to the possibility of something like that happening. When I first moved to LA, there was so many like things like that you learned, right? When I moved out here in 2001, 2002. And it was like, you're a commercial actor, then you can't be anything else. If you're in TV, then you can't be in movies. Movie people don't do TV. TV and movie people don't do commercials. If you're a theater person, people think you're a theater person. That's not the right type of acting. You know, there were so many like things that I was like being told that I was just like so confused about. I genuinely couldn't wrap my head around. Why can't I do commercials and then build that into television and build that into movies and back to TV and back to commercials and back to theater? Like, I don't understand that you have to do this or you have to do that kind of thing. The one thing I sort of did buy into was this idea of like, you can only be an actor. If you have a side job, you hide that shit. You have like an alias. Like, yeah, I work in a restaurant, but at the restaurant, they call me Jerry and no one knows I'm an actor. You know, like you had to like hide it. And it was like, I think a real disservice to all the actors I came up with, this idea that you almost had to lie to people how much success you were having financially as an actor, that you didn't need a side job and that you were completely independently paying your bills through acting money, right?
You got to have a nice car. We got to see a nice house. Like
it goes so
like,
well.
You have to, it's like that. What is that? Like dress for the job you want, not the job you have. I'm like,
I know. And I think that this strike has been kind of liberating for a lot of actors because public sentiment, I think in general is like a little like about the strike, because I think because we do so much of this posturing as actors, and not just as actors, as Hollywood, box office numbers, money, 20 million, 50 million, 1 billion, whatever. We have given off a perception, whether we intended to or not, that we are all like killing it and we all drive fancy cars and we make millions of dollars, right? I am reminded every time I post anything about the strike on my social media, I get thank you so much to the trolls out there. Like I constantly am reminded that I am a billionaire who is crying for more money. Sometimes I forget that I'm a billionaire, and thank you guys if you're listening for commenting every single day. It means a lot. But like a lot of people have this perception, and like I don't necessarily blame them, because the way we portray ourselves in the media is just like, yeah, we're doing all this stuff and we're on Instagram and we're doing this stuff and we've got fancy shit and we're wearing fancy stuff and on red carpets and stuff like that. at the end of the day, you and I both know that 97% of our union, that is not the reality. We are just doing our thing. I think there has been sort of a liberating thing that I've noticed, and I haven't really talked about it with actors, but like a lot of us have been going on social media and just being like, yo, we're actually not millionaires. And this is exactly what I made on my last show. And this is what I made on that show. And this is what I made. This is what I used to make. Now I'm getting residuals for 2 cents. And there's something for me, at least, saying that has been sort of like I can drop the whole need to tell people that I'm like more rich and successful than I really am or whatever, because we were sort of taught to do that when I started coming up as an actor.
I mean, I was taught to do that in 2011 too. So 10 years later, they're still telling me the same thing. I remember the first big role I booked, I came home and I had to lose my job to go film this movie.
Of course.
And when I came back, of course. And when I came back, I was like on Facebook and I was like, I'm looking for a part-time work because I got so much good jobs from word of mouth. And my manager called me at the time.
No,
Not my current
that's not
manager.
you.
And
You don't
said,
do that.
You got to
don't put
take
out
that
there.
down. We're selling you as a leading lady. And I was like, but there's no auditions
have any
coming
money.
in.
Yeah.
I was like, how am I supposed to pay for, like, self-tapes had started to be a thing. And I was like, how am I going to pay for a self-tape or like nice clothes? And it was a whole situation. And I was like, this is horrible.
Yeah, I think and I think we did ourselves a disservice by like, sort of doing that. And then all of a sudden, like I start seeing people popping up over the past few years. Like, is that Ryan Reynolds? Like he owns like a cell phone company. George Clooney's got like a tequila, and like Nick Offerman is like a woodworker. And then like every interesting actor that I love and that I want to be like, that I look up to, it's like every single one of them has something. They all have this thing that they are passionate about, whether it be painting or poetry or cars or race car driving or travel, teaching, whatever it is. And I'm like, wait a minute, I was told I wasn't supposed to be doing all this stuff, and then I got Henry Winkler sitting at his dining room table telling me, yo, you need this. You actually need, this is going to become something that will sustain you, not take away from your progress as an actor or even your image as a successful actor. This is something you're going to need. And I'm glad that he said that to me, because a lot of times, like you said, it's not going to be something that it's not going to be something that just, oh yeah, I know exactly what that's going to be. It's going to be something that like people come to you. People kept coming to you and saying like, how do you make it work? How do you do your self tapes? Why does your camera look so good? Like, and you're like, wait, this is like an opportunity here, and you were open to that opportunity. I think that's a big thing. It's like being open to it. And then also like, I don't know if 10 years ago I would have been secure enough as an actor or as a person to like stand behind my soft pretzel cart at an event filled with people that I work with. I would have been like mortified that I was not at that party and I'm working at that party. And did I go back? Cause I used to be a caterer for years and I was a nanny for years, and Katie and I met when we were nannies, and I was like, is this going backwards? Are people going to, oh, is Adam? And occasionally I'll get that. People will be like, Shappy Pretzel seems to be like taking up a lot of time. Are you still acting? That is like the worst thing a person can say to me. You know what I mean? Like in my nightmare in life is 2 people that I'm not with having a conversation saying, is Adam Shapiro like still acting? Like literally, like that makes me want to like die.
I know exactly what you mean.
And I get that all the time. And I'm like, all right, there's 2 ways to handle this. One, be upset about it and be like, how could they think I'm not acting? I'm on 2 series right now. I have a movie coming out. I have another series coming out. How could they think that? Or I can take it as just more motivation to like improve my marketing game, my personal marketing game. It is up to us as actors to always make sure that everyone in our circle knows that we're still actors. And I talk about marketing for all the time. First of all, I love it. It's fun. It's creatively fulfilling for me. I remember when I first moved out here, I had a manager I met with say like, oh, you don't have like a resume or a headshot or a reel or anything. So it's going to be pretty hard for you to get auditions. And I was like, no, that makes sense, And she's like, but you're funny. And I feel like you've got what it takes, but I think maybe you should work in the industry behind the scenes, maybe like as an assistant to an agent or a manager, and learn from the inside out sort of what great actors do, the ones that book, and what the sort of self-destructive ones do to like get in their own way. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. She didn't say what the good actors do and what the bad actors do. Cause she was like, you're in the big leagues. Everyone's going to be good. You're not auditioning against bad actors right now. It's more an idea of like, Who are the people that are setting themselves up for success and who are the people that are getting in their own way type of thing. And so I followed her advice. I was an assistant to a manager. It was like grad school. Like I learned every single thing about audition process, actors, submissions, agents, casting directors, studios. Every day for 1 year, I was the assistant to a manager. I read every single article in every public, Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Deadline Hollywood, whatever it was. And at the end of that year, I started auditioning and I was able to contextualize these auditions in a way that I didn't take everything so personally. Oh, I didn't get it because I sucked. It's like, you're the guy. It has nothing to do with you. But if you're thinking, I didn't get it because I sucked, you're moving back to wherever you came from in about a year and a half. Because
yes. Okay. What's the Cliff's Notes version of what you learned in that year for our actors who are listening, especially those who are like, I'm starting in a strike. I just had the pandemic. Everything's impossible.
Yeah. First of all, to those actors that literally started during the pandemic and are now dealing with the strike, hang in there. This sucks. I know this must be the hardest. I can't even imagine. But if you're listening to this and you are one of those actors, hang in there. It will come back around. We need you. It's a worthy job and we need you and you need to be an actor. And that's why you're here. And keep acting. Actors act. So even though we're on strike, fucking get into a black box and do a play. Like there's no excuse. Okay. The clip notes of that year as an assistant to a manager is like, I learned why people get cast and why they may not. And there's 7,000 variables that have nothing to do with how the audition went. And that's just such an important thing to learn for two reasons. One is you could get it out of your head that you fucked up the audition and you lost the job. First of all, we already have the job. We are full-time actors. The audition is an appointment. It's a meeting. It's a potential client. If you're a car salesman and somebody comes in and says they want to buy you the car that you sell and you show them all your cars and they say, oh, we actually wanted it in green. Do you have it in green? And you say, no, I don't have it in green. And then they leave. Do you now cease to be a car salesman because they left? Because you didn't make that sale? Is it because you fucked up? No, right? You did your job. You're a professional. You didn't have it in green. Literally the only reason they didn't buy that car from you. And so that car salesman is still a professional full-time car salesman, regardless of making that sale. And so if we start to think about auditions as sales meeting, that our job is the audition. And if we book, now our job is to shoot that job. But they can't give me the job or take the job away because I already have the job. They have nothing to do with my job. I'm the CEO of my company. They're just doing their other thing. I don't like how the word audition has become like a verb for actors. At some point, the word audition, I would love to go into like the history of this word, but like a studio would hold an audition. Producers would hold an audition that actors would attend. It was up to them to cast their movie. If they don't cast their movie, they don't have a movie. I don't know what happened over the course of the next 80, 100 years, but now it's like we audition for a movie. I'm not auditioning for a movie. You're auditioning your movie.
I love that.
I'm doing my job. Regardless of if this movie happens or not, I still have my job. You don't. You know what I mean? You have to make this movie. So like, this isn't my audition. This is your audition. I'm doing my job as an actor, going to this audition and performing. It's an opportunity to act that day. It's an opportunity to do characters that you won't necessarily get to play. I used to hate when I would get called in for shit I would never book. Now I love it. I'd be like, I'm never going to get a truck driver from the Midwest, you know? Of course you're not. But like, go be a truck driver from the Midwest for a day. They can't stop you. They're calling you in. Also, they've seen your headshot. They're not just calling you in because they think you look like a truck driver from the Midwest. This is an opportunity. First of all, you're not booking that role. So make it an audition for every other role they ever cast. If you crush every audition, you have about a 5% chance of booking that role, but you have a 100% chance of booking a role with those people.
Eventually.
In the future. Eventually. All those eventuallys build up to like all the time.
Yes. See, I'm waiting for the all the time. That's it. It's like that patience of staying here for the eventuallys, I think, is what I'm learning is like it's the hardest part. And there's a lot of actors who are listening to this who haven't yet self-identified as an actor because they haven't booked anything. And it's so
Don't even get
hard.
me started on that. You are an actor,
I want to get
man.
you started.
I say this to people. I met somebody in the picket line the other day. They're like, oh yeah, I'm an aspiring actor. I go, there's no such thing. You're either an actor or you're not an actor. Don't come at me with this aspiring bullshit. You think a director's going to cast an aspiring actor in their movie? The movie that they've been working their fucking ass off for the past year and a half to get financing for? They're going to cast an aspiring? No, they're going to cast an actor. So you are an actor. And I don't know why actors all of a sudden became the one job where we're not allowed to just say that we're an actor. We have to be like rich and famous to say that. Like if you're a painter, you say I'm a painter. No one's like, well, how many paintings have you sold? I'm a dancer. Well, how many times have someone paid you to dance in their music video or whatever? It's like, but for actors, it's like, oh, are you an actor? But you're really a waiter. You're like an aspiring actor. You're a starving artist. It's like, fuck you, dude. I'm an actor. I don't care if you think I haven't made enough money acting. I'm an actor. The moment you self-identify yourself as an actor is the moment you're going to start working. Because an actor, professional actor, an actor in Hollywood, what we're specifically talking about, has a million jobs. You're the CEO, you're head of marketing, you're head of sales, you run the money, you're also outreach, you're also PR, you're the web designer, you're the social media manager, you're the social media manager's assistant, you're everything. So like one little part of that job is acting on a television show. That's one little part of that job. So if you don't have that job today, you got about 12 other things you could be doing. If you want to self-identify yourself as an actor, I say you are, but you have a responsibility. Now that you're an actor, you're the CEO and you have a lot of shit you need to be doing every day. And if you're not doing those things, you can call yourself an actor, but you're not helping yourself. You're not setting yourself up in a position to succeed.
Yeah. There's two things from that I really want to talk about. One is I want to know the through lines of some of your bookings that you feel like this is something succinct that I feel like this is why this is working. And then I want to talk about marketing. So I'm going to put a bookmark in that and come back because you keep saying that and I really want to talk about it. In the stuff you booked, because you've run a fun gambit of different types of characters. They do feel like you though, just from like the 15 seconds I spent with you, like meeting you on the picket line and now and like the time of social media. But what has worked in auditioning from creating this character to booking it? That is, can you see any through lines in your work?
Yeah. I mean, one of my things is like, I've never been the type of actor who's like, I'm going to like become Abraham Lincoln. Okay. Like I'm obsessed with those actors. Those are the actors. If my wife would let me put posters of actors on our bedroom wall, I would have Daniel Day-Lewis, right here. Those are my favorite actors. I'm not one of them. I have too many things in my mind. I could never focus like that. And so I play every role I play. Like, how would Adam Shapiro be an astronaut? How would Adam Shapiro be a teacher? How would Adam Shapiro be, like in the world of John Wick or whatever? And so you're right. I mean, a lot of my characters are basically extensions of myself because that's where I approach the work a lot of times from. Like, how would I do this? Though one thing I will say, I can through line every single job I've ever booked. I'll just take one path. So I did a commercial. That commercial agent also did like short films. I did a short film. The casting director from that was working on Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. So then I moved from that. I got a guest star on that. The same casting director from Sweet Life of Cody was then doing a movie called The House Bunny. That was then my first line in a movie. Adam Sandler's nephew was in that movie. He put me in a series of YouTube videos that were directed by this dude Payman, who then put me in a bunch of commercials. And then from those commercials, I got my first like pilot audition, which I didn't get. But that casting director brought me in the next week for like a couple lines on a TV show, which I did get. The director from that TV show then cast me on the next thing they directed, which was like my third TV show, Gilmore Girls. And it's like everything ties together. And when you think it's all in a vacuum, it's just not true. Like every single thing. Like I just got done doing this John Wick series with the director that put me on a Showtime series called The Good Lord Bird with Ethan Hawke. I was completely edited out of that series after spending like 2 months in Virginia learning how to ride a horse and shoot a bayonet. Happens, whatever. But the director and I were homies from the shoot. He was like, I've never been called to say I've been edited out. Normally you just find out in the most embarrassing way while you're like having
when you and your
viewing
family
party.
are watching
Yeah.
it. Yes.
It's like Thanksgiving and you've got the whole family there and you're like,
oh, this is when my mom is like, my mom will be like, I think that's your ponytail.
And you're like, I think you're right. Now learn that lesson. That's another good tip for young actors. Watch the thing before you throw a viewing party. Get confirmation you're in the thing before you show up at the premiere. And I mean, The House Bunny, the movie I just mentioned, I went to the premiere with my buddy Danny Pudi, who's in that movie with Henry Winkler. that I did that.
Yeah.
And he was on Community, and Danny and I sat there in the premiere, and I was like so excited for his scene to come up. And then it just completely edited out of the movie. No one told him. And we're sitting there in the seats, and I'm like, oh my God. And now he couldn't be more successful, and he's on 17 TV shows. So it happens.
Love
you get
that.
edited out of things. But I had, and then he put me in the John Wick series, and then we were in Budapest together, and like, there's just so many connections. There's so many through lines. But I would say the biggest fundamental sort of cornerstone change that happened with me as far as auditioning was a real sort of exploration into authenticity. You said, oh, your characters are very similar to who you are. It's very like, I take that as like such a compliment, because for a long time, for the first like 10, 15 years I was acting in Hollywood, I was doing commercials, and I was doing like lots of commercials, and it was really great for me. I was making money. I didn't have that many side jobs, no side jobs, just like not that many side jobs,
3 instead of 5. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Which is amazing. And I just could not book a line on a TV show or a movie. Like, it was just this sort of barrier I couldn't get over. And I knew that in there somewhere it had to do with my performance. It wasn't that I was like fucking these things up. It had to do with a little bit of a lack of confidence. I was a little scared. I was nervous going into the auditions, and just probably generally speaking, didn't think I deserved it or belonged there, because I look at the rest of the waiting rooms at auditions where you saw everyone you were up against. And I would see all of them, and I know all of them from television. And I'm like, oh my God, I know all these guys. I shouldn't be in this room. They're going to kill me. And I went, and this is my favorite story. And this is the thing that really was a real turning point for me as an actor and as a person, I think. I auditioned for a pilot at Fox, and I went in. It was about like a pickup basketball team. And one of the guys on the team's wife had passed away like really young. And this team he plays with, this pickup league, helps him rebound and helps him with his grief. And it's rebound, right? And I'm the quirkiest of the guys on the team. And so I go in for the audition, and I'm like quirky in the audition, and I'm super quirky and just quirk, right? And I do the audition, and it's funny. It's good. It's a good audition or whatever. But after I get done, the director from the room, Jason Weiner, who's now, full disclosure, a dear friend, and I officiated his wedding. But at the time, we just sort of knew each other, pretty well. And because he used to be an actor, so I used to know him from commercial auditions. And he had, in between that time and this time, he had directed the pilot to Modern Family, which was just like absolutely smashing, as big of a success as you could ever have as a comedy director. And he was like, Shap, and he calls me back. I'm walking down the hallway at Fox. He's like, listen, I have some notes for you. I'm calling you back to test for the studio tomorrow. But the notes I have for you, I didn't want to give them to you in the room, because these are all the people that are going to cast the show ultimately. And these are more life notes than sort of character notes. And I was like, wow, okay, what the fuck does that mean? So he's like, I'm going to call you later. So I leave, I go back to my car, I drive home, whatever. I get a phone call from him. He's like, dude, so don't take any offense to this, but you are nerdy enough. You are quirky enough. In fact, let's just say you are enough, which is crazy to hear when you don't think that you are, and it gives me goosebumps telling the story, because what he was saying, and he broke it down for me. He's like, listen, dude, I couldn't take this advice when I was an actor, which is why now I'm directing, and I am so happy directing, and I'm never going back to acting. This is what he said. He said, but a lot of people would tell me during my time growing up doing improv, Northwestern, improv Olympic when he was an actor, do less, smaller. I've gotten that too. I've gotten that my whole life. From college, high school, every director, do less, do more, not so much. I'm a lot. This is how I talk. This is how I'm talking on this podcast, right? It's a lot. So for somebody to say do smaller, do less, to me, I'm like, does that just mean I don't move my hands? Do I move my mouth less? I don't.
One time someone told me that, and I was like, okay, so I'll talk really quietly.
Just I'll just act like a mouse.
They were not smaller, voice rate.
Just bring it down a little bit. And I speak for every actor in the world, but a lot of us are actors because we are a little extra. And that we started out doing musicals in junior high where we were told to shout to the back row. And, that becomes a part of your personality. That becomes a part of who you are. And when you start film acting, it is a bit of a learning curve to figure out how to bring it down so that the one audience member, which is the lens on the camera, is seeing it in a really realistic manner. And that's something we all have to learn and we have to figure out. But when they say to bring it down and make it smaller, just be you, that's being said thinking that you know who you are. And I don't that's another thing. Like a lot of us become actors because we're more comfortable being other people, or we're more comfortable being on stage than we are off. And to have Jason be like, dude, what I'm going to tell you could change things for you. Come in tomorrow and just be Adam Shapiro. You're not going to book this role at all if you're not Adam Shapiro. Okay. Like if we're looking for somebody nerdier, if we were looking for somebody who's literally going to trip over their own shoelaces and slip on a banana peel, unironically, without even trying, like we could find that actor. You're not going to get this role if you're playing at someone else. Eventually in your career, you're going to be Danny Day-Lewis and they're going to ask you to play Abraham Lincoln and you can somebody else. But right now in your career, 99% of the time you're going to be cast. You're going to be cast as a form of Adam Shapiro. And until you genuinely think that Adam Shapiro is enough and worthy of being in that audition and worthy of booking that job, it's always going to feel forced and it's always going to feel pushed. So come in tomorrow and fuck all the banter. Don't wear nerdy stuff. Wear whatever Adam Shapiro would wear. Jeans and a t-shirt. Be you. Chances are you're not going to book this anyway. But I want these guys to be casting you for the rest of their careers. And if they don't know who you are, they're not going to. And he's like, trust me, very difficult advice to take, probably really difficult to hear. He's like, I couldn't take this advice. But if you don't want to take this advice, keep on doing what you're doing. And you're always going to get cast in one-line things here and there because you can come in and you can nail that one line. But when it's time for depth and it's time for 360-degree, multi-dimensional you, it's got to be you. And I'm like thinking, oh my God, this is like why I'm really successful commercially because the bit, that works for commercials, but it's like if you're going in for the movie, like it doesn't work as much. And he's like, listen, try it tomorrow. I'm going to be there. I'm not going to let you fail. If it's too scary and you never want to do it again, that's fine. But if you could do this, I really think you're going to work forever, And so I went in and for that audition, I felt like I was like bungee jumping. Like it honestly felt like I've always been the kind of actor that just layered on. Never the type of actor that revealed. Not at all.
Yeah, you had to get up on stage at a pilot callback, a network test, and like be naked, basically.
Be naked. I don't tell, at this time in my life, I didn't tell people that I was actually kind of a serious person, that I have depression, that I have anxiety, that I take medication for that. I was like, I'm the happiest person in the fucking world, which really worked really well for the Burger King commercial, but not for this fit, I went in and it was like real laughs, not like, ha ha. It was like people were laughing and I leave and he sticks his head out of the audition door and he gives me this like emphatic thumbs up. He's like, Will Forte already got the role. Like you're never getting this role. I wanted you.
Wait, that's my favorite part.
You're never getting it. I'm like, wait, what? And I'm not getting it. He's like, don't worry about it, dude. He's like, there's no room for it in the lineup. Fox already has comedies. Their other nights are dramas and then they have sports. He's coming from a perspective of like that I'm not as an actor. I'm like, he's going to change my life. He's like, the show's not going to air. There's no room on the schedule for it. Yeah. He's playing chess and I'm playing checkers. And he's like, but it doesn't matter. It's not about the gig. It's about the career. It's not about the short term. It's about the long term. And what you just did in that room, you may not have booked this role, but this role doesn't matter. What you just did in that room is you got yourself like a career. Authenticity. He's like, you go in there and you are your authentic self. That's when you're going to start booking. But if you keep coming in here like you did yesterday, playing at your idea of what you think they're looking for, and I can assure you they have no fucking idea what they're looking for, it's not going to be you because you're not there.
First of all, rad story. How do we help people figure out who they are? What do we do?
I'm the very, very, very last person on the list of people who could help people with figuring out who they are. But I will say a couple things. Now that I've made you spit out your water, I think as actors, it's really important. And this goes back to the Henry Winkler thing. It's really important to diversify our lives. If we are just completely obsessed with that next audition and that next job, that becomes who we are. Not the shining star that was in that musical in 6th grade that everybody was like, holy shit, Sam is an actress. And I've seen that happen to people in Hollywood. I've seen that happen to my friends, sort of just becoming obsessed with the industry, obsessed with the next job, obsessed with the next audition, obsessed with thinking about the last audition. I have trained my brain to forget an audition the moment I get into the elevator, or maybe after I get out of the elevator, because I like to do that little elevator acting thing where you feel it, that When you like leave an audition, then you get in the elevator and then you just do it again and fail it in the elevator.
Wait,
like,
what do you do now that we're only on self-tapes?
Oh, yeah. It's just me talking to myself in the kitchen and freaking out my kids. Yeah, but I think like, I've trained myself to like always just have a very, very short memory. When people go, how was the audition on Wednesday? I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm not lying anymore. I used to like front that I didn't know. Now I'm like genuinely have trained myself to forget about that. And I'd rather you not remind me because that's not my job. My job is not to cast their movie. My job I did on Wednesday. I'm moving on to the next thing. Their job is to cast the movie.
Yeah.
I can't get a job at an audition. I already have a job. I can create an account, a sales account. I booked that job. I booked their job. So now I'm going to do that as part of my job, but they can't give me a job and they can't take it away. So like, shifting that power dynamic in the audition is really important to getting over the nerves for me. When I had the false equivalency that in my head that an audition was a job interview, and that's just a really bad headspace to be in because you can't book the job. Literally, they book the job. You're setting yourself up for disaster by lying to yourself and saying that you have some sort of power that you don't. So you're going to fail every single time. Every one of those auditions is going to feel like a failure when really every single one of those auditions should feel like a building block that's making your foundation stronger and taller and more beautiful.
Like imagine this year if, and I know someone who's listening to this did this, was like, my goal for 2023 is to book my first guest star. And like, probably that's not happening. Or you just took the thing that is your bar and you put it in someone else's hands. The hands of like step 763 of a process of making something, let alone step 7,063 if that thing actually gets made. So
100%. What I would say to that person who set their goal to book their first guest star is just make an adjustment a little bit on that goal. It shouldn't be to book my first guest star because you can't, unless you're a casting director. You know what I mean? Like as an actor, you literally cannot book an actor on a role. You are the actor. But say that you want to work in the drama space. You want to work in the comedy space. You want to play a character that has gravitas or something like that. So as opposed to say, specifically, I want to book this guest star so that your North Star is pointing in the direction of booking a guest star, but you're not setting yourself up for the inevitable absolute failure, which is you can't do that. It's not up to you. But if your goal is, I want to work in drama, I want to work in comedy, I want to put myself in the best position to succeed. So I want like the dopest headshots and the dopest website and the best representation. And I want my representation to know everything about me that's going to help them agent for me. Those are goals. But to set a goal that is unattainable is just going to set you up for disappointment. And then you're disappointed. And that's not a great place for an actor to be. I mean, it's very hard to get up for being an actor when you're constantly, living in a sea of sort of disappointment and shame, like that's just it's a bad place to be coming from, but it's an understandable place to come from if you haven't had the experience out here or heard the things we're talking about, because it could be really fucking daunting when you first get out here and you're just like, where do I even begin?
It's so hard. And I'm about to maybe start a new additional podcast series. It'll be like same channel that's like starting from zero, because I think that's a space that is like really hard to, I think the stuff that we're talking about is like I don't envy Sam of like 2011. I do not envy that, but I will say the chutzpah I had to be like, I will live in someone's backyard garden shed. Absolutely. Like, I'm not that girl anymore, but that girl got me to here. And I love her for that.
I know. I agree. I mean, I shared a bedroom with 3 dudes at one point. I was working a night job, a day job, and a weekend job and loving it. And like my favorite times being in Hollywood and being in LA, it was like being people's assistants and working 90 jobs. And, it's rarely like, I'm like, I really miss those days when I was a guest star on Bone. And like, you think that being a guest star on Bone is going to be that thing that makes you happy ultimately, or that thing that proves that you're an actor now and all that stuff. And it's like, not really, because now I'm 43 and I'm looking back on the 25 years or whatever that I've been doing this. My fondest memories are not the things I thought were going to be the biggest, most impactful things. You know what I mean? I'm thinking about like when I was this dude's assistant, or when I was driving a van for Mark Burnett, when I was working at Survivor, and when I was like learning and meeting people. And I think like those experiences, all experiences, like deepen our soul and our experiences. And then they impact our acting.
You're ready to audition for this truck driver role. You're ready. You're good to go.
This is what I'm talking about.
And also, I'm sure you've seen it. Like when you're on set, in between takes and in between setups, actors aren't really sitting around talking about their last jobs. You're talking about your kids, or like where your family went to vacation, or like what are you going to make for dinner, or like, you know.
People always say to me, they're like, you play so many teachers. And it's true. I played like 7
You do play a lot of
TV shows and movies.
It's interesting.
And everyone's like, that's so crazy. I'm like, it's actually not crazy. My first 3 jobs in LA were teaching. I am so comfortable being a teacher, and it comes out when I audition. The moment I open my mouth, I'm like, guys, all eyes on me. You know what I mean? The reports for tomorrow, I need you to turn those, you know, like that sort of like way of communicating with kids, speaking in front of a classroom, the way you project in front of a classroom, like all that. Like my parents are teachers. I was a Hebrew school teacher for like 3 years when I first moved to LA. I had 12-year-olds. I had a class on Sundays and Tuesdays, kind of an improv class for me because I don't know Hebrew, but they didn't need to know that. I needed a job and I could figure it out. I was a teacher, you know? And so when I go in for the teacher auditions, for me, I couldn't be more comfortable writing something on a chalkboard and reminding kids about something as they're running out the door. Like that for me is just so a part of who I am. There's no coincidence there. And it's like, had I not had that experience that had nothing to do with acting, I wouldn't have booked those same jobs. That's why it's so important for us to like diversify our lives. And I think when you diversify your life and you do a lot of things more, you're exposed to more things. And then I think the quicker you start to realize who you are and what you want. I think that's a lifelong.
So you did answer the question. You did answer
in a way.
How do you figure out who you are? In a way. You just take 15 to 30 years of like doing random work.
Yeah. And fail a bunch. But no, I do think that like, you know, the key to being authentic is really important as an actor for a few reasons. One is social media is really important for actors now.
Yeah.
And a lot of actors I know are totally scared. This is a perfect segue because authenticity is just as important in your acting as it is in your marketing, because no one likes following that actor on Instagram who's just bragging all the time and who's doing things that are like very like cozy and inauthentic and sort of not them. You feel that as the person scrolling, you come across that actor who's super authentic and you're like, that guy's so fucking cool. There's a guy on The Bear that I worked with this year on The Bear, Evan Moss-Backrack, right? He's a brilliant actor. He was on Girls. I don't know Evan that well. We only worked together for a few days on the episode, but I follow him on social media and I'm just like, this dude is so authentically himself. It comes out in his acting. He's brilliant. He's going to get nominated for Emmys. People are obsessed with his performance on this show. And then when he's not acting, it's sort of like the same thing. There's not like a huge difference between him on camera and not on camera. And then when I see his Instagram, it's like, he's like in a restaurant, he's holding up this like piece of bread and he's like talking about how good this bread is at this bakery or whatever. And it's so authentic. And it's not just like, yo, look at me, I'm on The Bear and best show ever, right? Yeah. Now, some people, their authentic self is, yo, look at me, I'm on this. For example, like my social media is a lot of like, yo, look what I did. Look what I'm doing here. Look what I'm doing there. But it's because like, I'm genuinely excited about those things. It's authentic for me to be like, you guys, I got to be on my favorite show ever that everyone's obsessed with right now called The Bear. Here's a video of me literally dancing in my trailer, freaking out. And then here's a bunch of pictures from behind the scenes. They are like, it's crazy. I hope that when people flip and see that Instagram, they're not like, your boy Shapiro with his annoying, inauthentic, braggy posts about what he booked. I hope that people are like, nice. I get to go along for the ride with him and see this cool stuff that he thinks is cool. You know, we can all try to like make ourselves look perfect on social media, and social media sort of lends itself to that. Like they'll give you the filter, they'll give you the thing to do. And ultimately, it doesn't matter what personality people try to put onto social media, their real personality is what shines through. I don't know how that works. It's magic. But every single person that I personally in real life think is super annoying, I feel the same way about their social media. Even though they're doing something different, even though they're trying to not be, you know, so like, and then the people that I think are really dope and really funny, I'm obsessed with their social media.
Yeah. When you said earlier, you were like, actors have to market themselves. And there's a lot of actors who look at social media and think like, oh my God, it feels like it's like me saying I'm not like, especially right now, there's like we're not allowed to talk about like film and TV booking. How do you still market in these times, or actors who don't have anything yet, you know?
Yeah, I think one of the things is, like always trying to think outside the box. I was going to tell a story earlier about after that manager told me that I had such a small resume. She's like, you have like nothing on your resume. You have no headshots or whatever. So then I thought it would be funny if I've got a very small resume to make my resume really, really small, like actually print it out just 1 inch big. And I would meet people in Hollywood and I would say, I'm an actor. And they, oh yeah, I'm a cast director. I'm like, oh my God, and they're like, send me your stuff. And I'm like, oh, my resume is like really small. It's a really small resume. And they're like, well, you're brand new. I'm like, no. And I would take it out of my pocket. I'm like, it's so small. Like you need a magnifying glass to read this. But I have a magnifying glass, and so I would like give people a magnifying glass. I literally am making people look at my resume closely. And like my first few meetings and jobs like came out of the mini headshot. And everyone around me knew the story of the mini headshot, and now that's like,
but it's authentic to you, right?
That's authentic
like
to me.
It's
like
so
not
specific.
not anybody could pull that off. Not everybody thinks that's funny. Like I do. I think that's hilarious. I remember my first few demo reels when I finally had like a commercial. I had a commercial for T-Mobile. I had 2 lines on 2 TV shows, 1 line on each TV show. That was my demo reel. And my manager at the time was like, we need a demo reel for you and so like I made the demo reel and it was like 20 seconds of the commercial because there was a lot of me in the commercial. And then there was like 2 seconds from the first show and maybe like 1 second from the second. I mean, it was like so short. Like my demo reel was like 27 seconds long and I'm trying to fill it out by like, I'll add in John Stamos saying all this stuff before I say my line. And then I'll show John Stamos saying stuff after I say my line. So it looks like the scene was like really 35 seconds, but really I just come in and go, I am such a fan of yours. Like that was my line or something like that. So I'm like, man, I just don't think that this demo reel is a good demonstration of who I am. Like it's what I've been cast in. But like, if I were to watch this, I'd be like, I don't know what this dude does. So what I did, which I think is really funny, is at the time we were burning our demo reels onto DVDs using like iDVD.
Yes, and I'd put a sticker over the front of it.
Sticker, your picture, the whole thing. Like,
yes.
You get a crystal clear case, and you can see the headshot through the case, and you have to create a menu that you click play demo reel. So I created a menu that said play demo reel, and then another button that said play demo reel with commentary by Adam Shapiro and his roommate David Offenheiser. And then I specifically made it so that if you click play demo reel regular, it's a dead link. It doesn't play. It doesn't do anything. So like, in order to watch my demo reel, you had to watch it with my commentary over it. And the commentary was like DVD commentary, and it was really funny. It was like, oh, T-Mobile. The commentary over the demo reel was really funny. Like if you were to watch my demo reel, you would have laughed like a lot. And you'd be like, whoa, this dude's funny. But if you were to watch it without the commentary, it would have just been like every other person in this town who had what I had, which was like 1 commercial and 2 lines,
If anyone's listening and is like, I don't know what commentary is, when we used to have DVDs, there'd be a side, you could play the regular movie or you could play the movie with commentary from the cast. And it would be like watching the movie, but with voiceover. And I swear it was fun.
It was so much fun. It was so much fun. And so like, that was what I did for my demo reel, and it was awesome. And like, and then like, I remember when I was on Mindy Project, I asked Mindy Kaling if she would come do commentary on me for my new demo reel. Like, so it would be commentary from Adam Shapiro and Mindy Kaling. And so like, I always like tried to think of things that were sort of outside the box to market myself as an actor, but always with the purpose of like how to get them to see who I am authentically, and also like make it memorable. I mean, if they're seeing 6,000 resumes and then they get one resume that's 1 inch big, like that's hilarious. And like every day I wake up thinking about marketing. I mean, that is one of the things as an actor that I never knew how to edit. I never knew how to do a graphic design. And I learned all of those things to just better market myself. Like if I'm on a show and I want to post something on Instagram, but the only image I can get from the show is like, it's a close up on me, but there's no context. Then I want to put like the logo of the show on that image so that when I post it on Instagram, it's my face, but also it says The Affair with the little Showtime logo on the image, like as if it was the image Showtime posted. And so like I learned how to do that, you know, at the time it was harder because you had to use Photoshop and take the logo.
Yeah, I was going to say now it's a joke.
Now there's like 7,000 apps to do it, which is why there's no excuse not to for an actor. But it's like contextualize the stuff that you put on Instagram so that people know what it is. It's like, if it's just a random picture of you, it's like, what is this? But it's like, oh, there's a little Showtime logo. Oh, it's on Tuesday. Like it says Tuesday on the image. Like those little things, like I think make a really big difference when it comes to social media and marketing. And I think like really the most important people that actors need to be marketing themselves to are not the general public. It's your inner circle or your outer circle or the circle in between those two circles. Like I always say in Hollywood, everybody always says it's who you know in Hollywood. And and to an extent that's true. But what I think is even more truthful is Hollywood is about who knows you. It's not about who do you know. If it was about who do you know, I would be fucking Leonardo DiCaprio right now.
It sounds like it.
So I can assure you it is not who you know. Okay?
Wait, but you're a billionaire. I heard you're a billionaire.
I know,
I hear
the trolls. I keep forgetting about the trolls. It is not about who you know. It's about who knows you. You know, because you can know a million people in this town. But what's more important than you knowing that person is that person knowing you when it's time to cast that role that you're perfect for. I left the Bear going, yo, dude, thanks for this job. And he's like, well, we're all obsessed with the pretzel thing. So, you know, we had to get you on the show. I was like, oh, so it wasn't that I knew him that got me onto that show. I've known him for 15 years. I've never worked with him once. Not in a bad way. Just I've never been in anything that Chris has ever made up till now. But there's something about the pretzel thing that made him know me better.
And most of this stuff is from auditions, right?
Like when I know these people.
Like your roles, or was it like a lot of stuff direct offers?
No. Like it's rarely offers. I mean, it's only maybe a handful of times. Maybe that's being generous that I've gotten straight offers. And this was sort of one of those. And I was like, dude, I just have to tell you, I'm just so grateful because I usually audition for Ed, bro, read the whole thing I do. And to just get a phone call, yo, do you want to come be on your favorite show? Like, that's just amazing. He's like, well, the pretzel thing, we're upset. And I was like, oh my God, he knows me. So, and I think that's really important. And that goes back to the thing I was telling you about, like, my nightmare is two people sitting in a cafe going, is Shapiro an actor still? Like, if they're thinking that, maybe they just happen to miss your last 9,000 Instagram posts about you being an actor. Maybe. Or maybe they're not on Instagram or maybe whatever. But your job, marketing your career and marketing yourself as an actor, is making sure that the people around you know that you're an actor. Making sure that they know what you're in and what you're doing and not being annoying about it. Like one of the most important lessons I ever learned when I first moved out to LA, I only knew one person in Los Angeles, and it was Bill Pullman, the great film actor, Broadway, film, television.
Wow.
And he's married to my mother's cousin. So me and Bill Pullman are cousins. You could see the resemblance. And when I first met Bill, I remember he's, one of my favorite people in the world now, and we're close friends and family. But at the time, I remember just coming into Hollywood hot, the guy sleeping in people's garages and doing it. And I remember asking Bill, where do I get a headshot? Where do I go to acting class? Where do I do that kind of stuff? And I didn't realize Bill Pullman doesn't know where to get a fucking headshot. He hasn't gotten a headshot in 25 years. He doesn't know where acting class is. And now that I'm nowhere near his level, but I am not nowhere near the level that I was when I first moved out here either. When people ask me things I don't know about, I'm like, I don't know where headshots are taken. Like there's things that I don't know because it's been so many years and I'm like sort of a different generation of actor. I was wasting precious relationship time with him, wasting these questions. I could have Googled where to get headshots. I could have gone into an acting class and asked somebody, but to ask Bill Pullman to waste my time with this guy who really what I should have been doing is like zipping my mouth and just soaking up every story and every sentence coming out of this guy's mouth because the experience he's had and the talent that he puts out there, it's so tremendous. Like, that's what you should be asking for is success. Just, can I be around you?
Yeah.
Can I drive with you when you're going to that play? Can I join you at this dinner? Like, those are the things you want to like ask the people you look up to, not the things you can Google. Because if you keep asking them the stuff you can Google, they're going to get annoyed with you and they're going to be like, I don't really want to hang out with them first.
You can send all those people to me. That's
okay, cool.
That's what I do.
Good, yeah. That's
I will send them
straight to you. But no, I really think that like, that was like one of the biggest lessons I ever learned was like, ultimately, the little favors and the little things, not really necessary to ask people for those things. It's more important that your relationship with that person is solid and they like being around you. Eventually, they're going to put you in something they're working on. But the little favors and the little annoyances and the little, I always tell people like, I know that we want to ask our agent how things went in the audition. There has not been a single situation in the history of Hollywood where an actor has called their agent and go, hey, did you ever hear about the movie I have this year? Where they go, fuck, oh my God, you booked it. And oh my God, I am so sorry. They loved you. You booked it. They offered it to you and I forgot to call you. And I think they probably moved on. Never in a million years has that happened.
Thank God I called.
So it's like, don't call your agent and bother your agent. Hey, did I get this? Did I book this? Did you hear anything? Call your agent when you have something to give them that's going to help them sell you. Call your agent when you're like, yo, I have a new headshot. I have a new demo reel. I did this. I did a short play. I'm doing a play at a black box. I did a film. I did a student film. That's when you call your agent. I met Judd Apatow today. So write that down. I know Judd Apatow and he really likes me, right? Those are the things you call your agent with. Not the, yo, where's my audition? Yo, how did the one go? Have you heard from them? Because the answer is no. I didn't hear from them. Did they give me any feedback? No. If you weren't the guy, move on. But a lot of actors will do that. They'll sort of ruin their relationships with their reps by annoying them to no end with stuff they didn't need to be asking their agent. Your agent will call you when you book the job 100%. You don't have to worry about that, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of that comes from like bad conditioning of the agents whose we often have when we first start.
I know.
Who
like want to talk to you about every little...
respond to emails and who won't like be your person. And like, listen, we've all had them. And you will, I promise you, if you're listening to this and you're like, that's my agent, you can fire them whenever you're ready. And also, you will get past that at some point.
You will
get
100%.
This kind of rep later, I promise. And
it's like having that bad boyfriend that ruins your next relationship because you think that guy's going to say the same
conditioning. Yes. You can't let that negative conditioning like turn you into a person who like, well, if I don't talk to my agent every single week, they're going to forget about me.
They're going to forget about me.
They will not. They want you to make money. They want you to make money because they want to make money.
Just like the casting director you're auditioning for wants you to book the role. They want everybody in there to succeed. No casting director is upset that you're there or wanting you to fail.
Yeah.
Their note that they're giving you is not because you did it wrong. It's because they actually got an email saying the director was really annoyed by the tapes from yesterday about how every actor did this one thing. Don't do that thing. That's why I'm telling you the note. Not because I don't think it was brilliant. It's because I had an email from the director saying, do not send me another fucking audition where the person says this line this way or whatever. The notes are trying to just help you, So I don't know. We could talk for 50 hours about this stuff. And I just have so many theories about the way we approach things. I don't like using the word audition. I have all these things, but like a lot of it is ultimately, at the end of the day, it's putting yourself in the best position to succeed, doing everything you can as a business person, as a CEO, as somebody running a company. Once you get more and more successful, you could like hire a business manager and then you don't have to worry about the financing part of your company. You could literally just be like, I don't deal. You could hire a lawyer. I don't do with deals. I don't do with it. When a paycheck comes in, my business manager puts it into great. That's what a real business does. When a business grows, you have an accountant in your office that does all the accounting, you know? And so you have to constantly treat yourself as a business. And if you're doing that and you're being authentic to who you are, there is always something you can be doing every single day to position yourself for success.
Yeah. That's such a perfect place to wrap up. Adam, you are amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
You're amazing. Every time I see an Instagram of yours or anything that you post, I'm like, damn, like I wish I had someone like you when I was a baby actor because I genuinely, we didn't even have social media when I was starting out. So I didn't have any social media. And I remember when Facebook and Instagram and MySpace, all these things first came out, I was like, oh my God, I could just follow Mark Ruffalo. That's like unbelievable access. I remember thinking like, this is amazing. Like now I'm like, looking at what Mark Ruffalo's doing backstage. And like, I'm like, now Mark Ruffalo isn't like a wizard who lives in outer space. Like he's a real person. And I'm like, oh, I'm kind of like that guy. And we have similar. It's amazing to have these resources. And I always look at your stuff and I'm like, man, I just wish I had that coming up, because it really felt like a gatekeeper type of situation in Hollywood. Like you just didn't get the information. No one told you anything and you just had to like figure it out yourself.
Thank you. That's the whole goal. And I intend to like keep sharing as things get bigger, because I'm going to have whole new things to learn. I'm going to be like, hey, Adam, I have a question. When the bear calls and asks me if I can be on it, what do I say? Like, what is?
No,
okay, got it.
You know, every step of the way, every time you do something, you've now experienced it. It's like, I was so nervous for my first screen test. And then you do the screen test. Now your next screen test is actually it's your second screen test and you're half as nervous. You know what I mean? And so it's like every step of the way is a building block, regardless of the outcome.
Yeah. You're so great. This is awesome. Where should people be following you if they're not?
Oh, yeah. Shappy Shaps on Instagram and Shappy Pretzel.
Amazing. Adam, thank you so much.
You're the coolest.